This is Chapter 4E on percentages. In this chapter, you will learn to, number 1, convert decimals into percentages, vice versa. Skill 2, you'll convert fractions to percentage, and also converting percentages to fractions. In previous chapter, we already showed the connection between a fraction and a decimal, so this chapter will bring in the percentage. So first, before we continue, let's make sure we can convert a fraction into a decimal. And if you cannot remember the skill, this is from chapter 4C, so you can always revisit the 4C tutorial at any time. So at this time, pause and complete these exercises, converting fractions to decimals and vice versa. Okay, so 6/10 as a decimal is simply 0.6, because if we think about 0.6 and we put a 1 under the decimal and 0 under the number, that makes 6/10. Oops. Now 75 hundredths, if you put a 1 under decimal, 0 under each number, that's going to be 75 hundredths. Now we need to simplify this fraction, so we can actually divide multiple times by first 25 and then by 3, but in this case we can also, yes, actually we should divide simply by 25, divide by 25, and this will make 3/4. And so this fraction should be 3/4 when it's in simplified form. If you wrote 75 hundredths, you're not wrong. It just can be more simplified. 9/20. So to turn this into a decimal, we have to first make sure that the denominator is out of 10, 100, or 1,000. So we can multiply this by 5 actually. And this becomes 45 hundredths, which then turns into 0.45, because that's 45 hundredths. The next one, 35 hundredths, which can be divided by 5, which then turns into 7/20. And the last one, 3/50. We want a denominator out of 100, 10, 100, or 1,000. So we times this all by 2, which makes 6/100, which makes 0.06, because it's 6 hundredths. Now, we have to be able to convert decimals into percentage and vice versa, and it's actually quite simple. To convert a decimal to a percentage, all you have to do is multiply it by 100, which is the same as moving the decimal to the right 2 times, because there's 2 zeros. So if we want to convert a percentage to a decimal, it's the opposite. You have to divide by 100, which means you actually move the decimal to the left 2 times. So in the first example, we're converting this decimal into percentage. So 0.7 times 100. Basically, this means take this decimal and move it over 2 spots to the right and fill it in with a 0 so that we fill in any missing gaps, which just makes 70%. In the case of 56%, we have to divide by 100 because we're going the other way, which means we take this imaginary decimal that's behind the 6 and we move it 2 spots to the left, which makes 0.56. So either you're moving the decimal 2 times to the right or you're moving that decimal 2 times to the left. So at this time, pause and complete the rest. So this was 70%, this was 0.56. Now 0.24 times 100 makes 24%. 80% divided by 100 will make 0.80, or 0.8, it's the same thing. Now the last one, you're going from a decimal to a percent, still the same thing. You times it by 100, which moves your decimal 2 times to the right, which just makes 125%. Now, converting a fraction to a percentage is almost similar to converting a fraction to a decimal. So 2/10 is the same as saying 20 out of 100. We want a percentage to always be out of 100 because it's the highest thing you can get on a test, 100%. So our goal is to make that denominator out of 100 each time. Once you have it, 20 out of 100, well, that's easy. That's just 20%. So your goal is to turn each of these denominators into an equivalent fraction out of 100. Once you have it, then that numerator is your percent. So pause. So this was 20%. 3/5, we have to multiply the top and the bottom by 20 to make an equivalent fraction of 60 out of 100. That is automatically 60% because that's your numerator. 9/20, we have to multiply this by 5 because this will make 100 on the bottom, so therefore the top is set 45. So 45% is your percentage. 5/25, you have to multiply this by 4. This makes 20 out of 100. This automatically becomes 20% because that is your numerator. And finally, we need to convert these percentages into fractions. So we just have to go backwards. 25% is the same thing as saying 25 out of 100 because a percentage is always out of 100. Now all we have to do is simplify. So I know I can divide this top and bottom by 25, which then becomes 1/4. And so my fraction is 1 out of 4, 1/4. So at this time, pause and do the rest. So 1/4. 60% is 60 out of 100. You can divide this by 10, which cancels out one of the zeros that they have in common, which makes 6/10. I can then divide by 2, which makes 3/5. 44% is a 44 out of 100. I can divide by 2, which makes 22 out of 50. I can still divide by 2, and this will make 11 out of 25, and that's it, 11 out of 25. The last percentage is 26 out of 100. Let's divide by 2. This will make 13 out of 50, and that's the furthest you can go. So this last fraction is 13 out of 50. And that's it.